恭请大德圣听，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱世无离苦乐殊胜无生。With the Sangha, with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, present the wonderful Dharma will to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchedoye olahuri sanmyao sanputoshe. Wu shang shen shen wei miao fa, bai qian wan jue nan zhao yu. Wo jin jian wan de shou chi, yuan jie ru lai zhen shi yi. Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Shifu Shangren, Gui Shishung, Daja Omitofo, Venerable Master, Dhamma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture tonight. Good evening, everybody. Today is Saturday, October 5th. We're more than halfway through Libra, and we're delighted to be here to explain Flower Garland Sutra with all of you today. And appreciate folks who are making it happen electronically. Locke is on the computer tonight, and in Australia we have Sam and Cliff sending it over the Great Chinese Firewall. And Alice is going to sit in the front row because nobody else is going to sit in that seat and watch her. There we go. We're just all in harmony tonight. Great. And we have a Vietnamese translation up in the balcony for those of you who want to listen to the sutra in Vietnamese. All right. With all of those details as preamble, let's do our invocation. You'll find it on the front cover of your sutra text, and you all should have one of these. That's our melody, right? We all know that melody. The point of this bit of ritual is to invite the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Flower Garland Assembly to kind of pay attention to what we're about to do, which is open the text in their light. That's the language we use, right? If we're successful in notifying them that there's a sutra lecture going on and that we would be delighted if they would come and bless it, then they will do that. And we all get the benefits of that light. And at Gold Mountain Monastery and at City of 10,000 Buddhas, when Master Hua would do that, it felt like a bath. It felt like cleansing somehow. Invisibly, you were cleaner and brighter at the end of the lecture. So that's kind of how you knew that it was working, because of what we left behind. The invisible stains of affliction, my goodness, and the dirt of emotion and confusion was just kind of washed clean and sent back to empty space. So that's, I have that experience. That was one of the most important things in making me a Buddhist believer, was just sitting in the sutra lecture every night and feeling the invisible but real presence of something very pure and ancient and holy. So let's see how we do tonight. Here we go. Ready? This we're going to do it in Chinese. Here it is on the front cover. Ready? Nam Mô Da Phang Quang Pho Ai Ji Ai Hai O Pu Sa Nam Mô Da Ai Ji O Pu Sa Nam Ai Ji Ai O Pu Sa Nam Ai Ji O Pu Sa Nam Ai Ji O Pu Sa. One more. Nam Mô Da Phang Quang Ai Ji Ai O Pu Sa. Right. Please turn to page 92 and 93. Now what we're going to do tonight, we're going to go through these verses. We're in the verse section. Then we're going to do a song with everybody from our songbook, and everybody's got a songbook. Then we're going to switch over to the computer and the projector and the screen to look at a preview of coming attractions, and then more photos from China. So that's what I have in mind for tonight. I hope that appeals to everybody. We're on third stanza. The Chinese starts with 处于法座如狮子, seated on the Dharma throne with a lion's roar. Okay, everybody ready to immerse in the ocean of the flower garland? Here we go. Ready? 处于法座如狮子. Your turn. 处于法座如狮子. 已入牛王宝山王，又入龙王不密云，树甘露雨冲大海。Okay, good. Over to the right. Should we do it together? Let's start with seated. Ready? Here we go. Seated on the Dharma throne with a lion's roar, also like a royal bull or king of a mountain of jewels, or like a king of dragons arraying dense clouds, he sends down the rain of sweet dew, filling vast oceans. Who is the he here? Could be a she. It's the Da Fa Shi, the great teacher of Dharma, who has been in training. And this is, our chapter is about what he learned, his course of instruction to get to become a significant, Da, you could say great, but great is already a devalued word, right? Big, you could be big. A big Dharma teacher, he might be like 4'8", but he's still big here is capacity, not inches and feet. You could also say magnificent. You could also say important. You could also say what are some of the words? A seminal, meaning one who plants seeds. A turning point in the teachings is what this bodhisattva has been trained to become, so that before him or her and after him are different. The contribution that he or she makes in speaking Dharma matters. That's the Da here. It's that it's not in these verses, but that's what the ninth stage where we are, the Flower Garland Sutra. What this is about is how he or she becomes a significant, important Dharma teacher. Now, our verse today gives us 4 analogies, and they're all animals, interestingly. So, the first one is a lion. It's the last 2 words, 狮子. Interestingly enough, that you all see, it says 出于法座如狮子, right? Even if you don't read the Chinese characters, you can read the romanization. That 狮 is supposed to have a lion radical on the left-hand side, but in honor of the Buddha, they take the animal out of the character, right? Interestingly, anybody who knows the Chinese, it's 狮子has the actual, and it's one of those radicals. And because it's the Buddha, they take the animal out. So that's the 狮 of Fa Shi that we're looking at. But everybody who reads it goes, oh, well, that's a lion, you know. He's sitting on his Dharma throne the way a lion would. And as I translated that, I thought, lion sitting on the Dharma. How about lions roar from the Dharma throne? So I made it an analogy. So it's not actually the animal sitting on the chair, right? Like the Paramount Studios lion. Was it Paramount? Was it Paramount? MGM lion. Right? Not that. It's the lion's roar that the king of Dharma, the king, as the way the lion is the king of beasts, the Buddha is the king of sentient beings. So there's our lion. That's how our Dharma teacher on the ninth stage appears now. What else is he like? He's like a Niu Wang, king of oxen. And boy, I don't know the last time anybody saw a bull. We see cows, right? But if you see a bull, bulls are usually like the pasture is over there and there's one critter all alone over there. And if you ever go over and get close to a bull, you will be impressed at the size and the power of that animal. Anybody who grew up in Taiwan in the 50s and 60s and even the 70s probably saw shui niu, right? Jin He Shi knew I'm sorry, Jin Fo Shi. It was not Jin. You didn't know shui niu, water buffaloes. No, more like tractors and things, cars. But in Taiwan, water buffaloes. You did have them, okay. In 1969, I went to Taichung. Taichung is now all skyscrapers where I was, and where I was in 1969, there were water buffalo. And Daotian, there were rice paddies. And the size of those animals was just, and here's this insignificant little critter called the farmer, and he's directing the water buffalo, telling it to go left and right. And he's using a yoke, interestingly, the same word that makes yoga. It's a Sanskrit word, yuj. And he'd pull on the yoke this way, and the water buffalo would go, oh, you want me to go that way? I'll go that way. And I want me to go that way now? I'll go that way. And it's because the little man is pulling on the yoke. So yoga is designed to get our bodies and minds, which are as strong as bulls, to also obey us, right? So, the king of cows, Niu Wang, the bovine monarch, right? The king of bulls, big animals. And if they decide they're going to smash you and you're in the way, you get smashed. They are so powerful. So the Buddha is that way, by analogy. Bao Shan Wang, like a king of a mountain of jewels. Okay, a mountain of jewels, diamonds, emeralds, rubies, pearls, piled up like a mountain. Who is the boss of that? That's somebody you want to have a relationship with so that you can enjoy the mountain of jewels. So the Buddha's like that. 又入龙王, 不晕, 不密云. Another animal, dragons. Here in the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, we have an abundance of dragons. They're stained glass dragons, but right behind me, there are dragons here, and there's dragons on the table behind. On our Tripitaka cabinet, there are dragons on the top, and on Master Hua's Patriarch's altar, there are more dragons. We have more dragons in our Buddha Hall than any other Buddha Hall in downtown Berkeley. Guaranteed. Absolutely, without a doubt. Lots of dragon kings. And, you know, we're at a funny moment in human history where we're forced somehow to deny the existence of dragons, but European culture certainly affirms the presence of dragons. St. George and the dragon. There are paintings from the Middle Ages where dragons feature prominently. And somebody make them up? Is that a fever dream? Is that like opium dreams? No, they saw dragons. Dragons interacted with humans at that point. And in China, my goodness, they're just dragons everywhere, right? So what happened that humanity forgot our dragons? Brian, when did folklore stop doing dragons? Middle Ages? Because there they are. They painted them. They're stories. But somehow to be a modern person, you have to deny the existence of dragons, or else go to Folkmanis and buy them, or somehow. But we don't do dragons in popular culture, but guess what? What are all these dragons doing here? Here it is in the sutra. Is the Buddha making it up? The Buddha talks about dragon. In fact, in the sutras, dragons have names. They have jobs. They have wives. They have children. They're absolutely real. Tian Long Ba Bu, the devas, the dragons, and the Eightfold Pantheon. So either we call Buddhism fairy tales, or else we expand our capacity for appreciating things that our senses don't necessarily report. Right? Could it be that we're not quiet enough to see the dragons that the Buddha says are right there? And they're, you know, if you want to know more about dragons, look into the Avatamsaka Sutra's Shen Shopin, the worthy leader, we call him, or the virtuous leader. There's lots of stories about dragons there. And it's reported completely with a straight face. No, it's not winking, you know, nudge, nudge. No, it's like dragons. Pay attention to them. You know what it says? You got some pictures of dragons? Yeah? That's okay. I know. I've seen that one. Yeah. There's a famous picture of Guanyin Bodhisattva standing on a dragon that was reportedly taken by an American F-86 fighter pilot over Taiwan in the 60s. And it's apparently he looked out his window of his F-86 fighter jet and saw Guanyin in a storm standing on the back of a dragon. And that picture made the rounds and was like, oh, I absolutely believe it's totally real, you know. You had to kind of, which side are you on to decide, was it real or was it not? But there it was. And it looked like Guanyin standing on the back of a dragon. And the U.S. fighter pilot said, yeah, I just took this out my window, you know, as he was flying by through a storm. So, kind of challenges your categories. Jin Chuan, you're smiling. Are you thinking of writing a dissertation on the presence or absence of dragons in postmodern Buddhism? So, and their symbolism, right? That's towards a symbolism of postmodern dragons. There. That's a good dissertation title. Right? So yeah, how about that? So the Buddha is what? You Ru Long Rang. What does the King of Dragons do? Bu Mi Yun. He arrays dense clouds. Okay, here we go. I'm just reporting. I'm not editorializing. I'm not choosing. But the community at Gold Coast Dharma Realm, in the midst of a critical drought, when they needed rain like crazy, recited the Locke. You want to ask Sam and Cliff, what was it they recited? It was the Qiu Yu, I know, seeking for rain, but was it the Shurangama? Ask Sam to type in what it was. They recited it, and the details. How long did they recite? Sam and Cliff, you want to type in, what would you do? Recently. This was like 3 weeks ago. And they recited for a certain number of days. Guess what? It started to rain. The clouds rolled in, and it rained. And now, they wouldn't take credit, but I'll take credit for them. They, was there a connection between Qiu Yu, Qi Yu, praying for rain, using the Dharma methods that directly talks to dragons? Because the Buddha says the dragons are in charge of the rainfall. He arrays the dense clouds. So, now, the Premier of Queensland did not make a trip to Gold Coast Dharma Realm to thank them. But people who were paying attention to such things said, we'll take it. We don't care if it's the Buddhists or the Muslims or the Sikhs or anybody. We'll take it. Just please make it rain. So it rained. In a matter 108 Great Compassion Mantras for 3 hours. Okay, that's a bargain. If they'd been more sincere, it would have rained more, right? So slackers? No, not at all. That's wonderful. So that happened 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And it was not a downpour deluge, but the clouds came and it rained after weeks and weeks and weeks of nothing but blue sky. So, like a king of dragons arraying dense clouds, he sends down the rain of sweet dew, filling vast oceans. Indeed, indeed. My experience with that, just parenthetically, some people know what story is coming here. Today is the second day of Hardly Strictly Bluegrass, our free music festival in Golden Gate Park, courtesy of the late Warren Hellman, who left a bequest that this music festival would go on every year for free. 250,000 people show up over 3 days. But in 1976, the very same year we bought City of 10,000 Buddhas, we were in the middle of a drought. It was a serious drought. And there were 5 of us who were fasting in order to encourage the dragons to make it rain. And somebody, one of our community, Gold Mountain Monastery, said, Shifu, can we do the praying for rain ceremony? He said, should have done it sooner. Why did you wait so long to ask? Of course you can do it. So we processed over to Golden Gate Park. We went to the Buffalo Meadows there. First we went to the amphitheater and announced what we were going to do and had lunch. And then we walked over to the Buffalo Meadows there, set up a table, and did the appropriate things, telling the dragons we were going to beseech them to make it rain. It had been a drought for 7 years, right? So I was fasting at the time, and I was just kind of like a walking skeleton. And we opened up the Chanman Ersong, which is the Buddhist breviary. It's a big book of Chan school ceremonies. And there inside is Qi Yu, what you do, what you say when you want to ask the dragons to make it rain. And we did it very, sincerely, straightforward, chanting Great Compassion mantras, certain other mantras, and very set formula. And we kept reciting, walking around, and lots of spectators. What are they doing? Does it work? And so we walked and we processed back to the bandstand. And there's actually of a photograph of me with a guitar in my hands singing Rain, the Beatles' Rain. I don't know, that's the first time I touched a guitar, and rain, I don't mind, right? So when the rain come, they run and hide their heads. Sang that, and of course, that made it rain, of course. So tell him to stop. Rain on him. Maybe he'll quit. So anyway, we went back to the monastery and heard pitter patter, pitter pitter patter, pitter patter, patter pitter pitter patter, 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 started to rain. And Channel 4 news anchor standing the evening broadcast. Somebody came running in the monastery and said, "Turn on the TV." We don't have a TV. Okay, well here's a TV. Plug it in. Turn it on. Channel 4 news. Here's the anchor standing there with an umbrella in Golden Gate Park in the buffalo fields with her feet in a puddle. She said, "Well, several hours ago, San Francisco Buddhists were here praying for rain. Now, we're not saying that it worked, but we're certainly glad they did it." And standing there in a puddle. Now, did Shifu have something to do with that? I think so. I don't think the dragons were listening to us, but I think because by accounts they're his disciples, that the dragons requested taking refuge with Master Hua. So here I am, broadcasting this live out there into a skeptical world who will say, "Superstition, prove it." Well, it rained a lot, and it hadn't for 7 years. And we did it that afternoon, and it rained that night. I wish we could say it broke the drought. It didn't quite, but it rained for 2 days. And a lot, rained a lot. So we were grateful because we could start eating again, because that had been a week of no food. And then only a few weeks later, we signed the contract for City of 10,000 Buddhas from Mr. Beckstoffer. So that's my experience with praying for rain using the Dharma, talking to dragons. And want to sing again? Do we want some rain? Here we go. When the rain... No, never mind. I won't do that. So, he's like a king of dragons, arraying dense clouds that send down sweet dew, filling vast oceans. How about that? That is our Da Fa Shi. Remember, I kept building up. I said the section that preceded this was what he learned on this stage. From the verse just above, the second stanza on page 93, on, it's a description of what he can do now, that he has absorbed that information. This is the instructions applied, right? So, if you're a 9th stage bodhisattva, and you've taken the course, you've taken the test, you paid your tuition, you've learned the stuff, now you start to apply it. And it starts out by saying he's like a lion, like a bull, like a king of mountain of jewels, like a king of dragons, sending down the Dharma of sweet dew. Okay, so far so good. We all on the same page here? Okay. 善知法性即奥义，随顺言辞能辩说，总持百万而生其，譬如大海受众鱼。He skillfully knows the nature of dharmas and their subtle meanings. He can explain it eloquently according to beings' languages, using hundreds of thousands of asamkhyas of dharanis. His wisdom is like the broad ocean that absorbs any rainfall. All right, this is the first time we've heard about the new ability to communicate. What the great Dharma Master, the big Dharma Master here, can do now is communicate in any language he chooses. Okay? How many of you have a pet that you wish could understand you? Or that you wish you understood doggy language, right? Or what the cat really meant. But I thought you wanted to go out. You stood there at the door meowing and I opened it and then you walked away. What are you doing? Cats are like that, They stand there, meow, meow, meow. You open the door and they go the other way. I don't understand you, Suppose you did. Suppose you could understand. It might be very mundane. Maybe it's a lot about food, Maybe learning cat and dog language wouldn't be so thrilling once you knew what they were talking about. Kookaburras, twice a day. Oh, twice a day, without fail. Twice a day, loudly, and the whole family does it. And they say they're saying, "My turf, stay away." This is it's territorial, they say. But I don't understand. I can hear the intensity of it, but I don't understand what they're saying. The Bodhisattva understands. She is really, really good at understanding every kind of language. How strange that even among humans, we don't communicate with each other, right? Every time I try to speak Vietnamese, people laugh. It just doesn't communicate, I can't make those sounds. And never mind Polish. Polish is hard to speak, And Gaelic, Irish Gaelic, oh my goodness. It never spelled the way it's pronounced, right? Right? Niamb, Neve, right? Siobhan, Shivan, right? Oh my goodness. Yeah, so how come we're one species, right? Humans, but yeah. Maybe it's because my first connection with Chinese was in Taiwan, but Taiwanese Mandarin, no problem. I pretty much understand Taiwanese Mandarin. Put me in Hebei, and it's like, 听不懂. Even more so Gansu, Gansu accents, I don't understand. He's speaking Chinese, but I don't get it, And then you go to Hong Kong, and oh, wow, High Cantonese it's another language. How come we're all people, we still, the Parisians look down on the Quebecois. Oh, their French is so rustic, so rural, so, that French is just completely pastoral, that's provincial French. And the Quebecois look at the French and go, putting on what air? What kind of air are you putting on, monsieur? So, nous parlons le français ancien, we speak Old French. So, how strange are people that we don't get along with language. But our Bodhisattva, oh my goodness, completely is able to do that. He can explain the nature of dharmas and their subtle meanings in whatever language you need to hear, using dharanis. Now this is the key to it. His wisdom is like the broad ocean. We've talked about dharanis. Remember, this is verses. When it was the prose part, what did we say? We said the Bodhisattva can vibrate deeper in the mind. Vibrate deeper below language at a vibration level that somehow filters up to all the languages. It's kind of the basic symbol set that then translates into all the subtleties of language. Yeah. So another way to think about it is, primary colors, RGB, red, green, and blue, right? It's red, green, and blue, not yellow, not red, RGB, red, green, blue. When you have a pure primary color, it's the mixture of those three that produces all the subtle hues. From magenta to puce, from lavender to ochre, right? All those other colors come out of those basic primary colors. And a dharani is something like that. It's a basic vibration that then comes up into the languages. I'm guessing. I don't really know, but mantras and dharanis and what are called zhenyan, true words, all overlap. They have subtle differences, but what we're doing when we go Nammo Saranto Suche Doye Ola Hudi Samyao Sampu Toshe, or Om Mani Padme Hum, or the way the Tibetans say it, Om Mani Padme Hum, or the way the Chinese say it, Nan Mani Bami Hum, right? Is it the same? Yeah, because it arises from the same place. And if we say gate gate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha, those are all primary vibrations that manifest in incredibly marvelous ways. So it never fails to give me goosebumps when I read Master Xuanzang's biography by his disciple Hui Li, recorded by Hui Li but narrated by Master Xuanzang on his way to India. It has a new meaning for me and for those of us who went to Dunhuang, because we've seen what Gansu looks like, what the Taklamakan desert that he crossed looks like. It's desolate. There's nothing there except sand piled up. And it's dry like it never rains, right? So he set off across that with a skinny horse. They say, a skinny red horse. No companions. Went off on his own. And sure enough, lost his water bag and had it punctured and was just about to die when he made a vow. And he said, if I die, I'm going to die with my face towards the west. I'd rather die with my face towards the west than be discovered, than return with my face to the east. Not the quitting. At least I kept my intent was clear by where they found my bones, right? That kind of vow. Do or die vow. When he made that vow, he said, suddenly across the desert came these apparitions. Now, at this point in the movie, we do a flashback. Okay. What happened? Before he set off, he was ready to go. He'd had a vision, he'd had a dream. He set all the conditions in motion. He was ready to go, but word came to him that in Xi'an, known at the time as Chang'an, there was a monk from the West, from India, somewhere in the trade route, who was really, really sick. He was so sick that all of his skin had broken out in horrible, stinky, pussy boils. Nobody wanted to deal with this sick monk. Master Xuanzang said, oh, well, I got to follow my vow, but I don't have to do it right away. I can delay my trip a little bit until this monk recovers. He put aside his plans and became a nurse and took care of the sick monk and tended him as if it were his own brother, who his older brother was a monk and had inspired his Didi to become a monk. So this is Master Xuanzang's personal history. So he did. He waited and he nursed this monk back to health. And the monk, turns out, was not just an ordinary sick monk. He was a special monk. And he said, thank you so much for your kindness. In return, he said, I understand you are about to embark on a dangerous journey. And Master Xuanzang went, shh, I'm sneaking out of the country. It's illegal. Don't tell anybody. Well, never mind. I won't tell anybody. However, I have something you might need on your journey. And so he taught him the Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra. Right? Kwanzai Pusa, Shingshan Bora Bolo Mido Shi. When the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara was practicing the wisdom that goes beyond, he looked down from on high, saw the 5 heaps, realized that they were all empty. So he taught him the Heart Sutra, especially Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhisvaha. Okay, end of flashback. Movie cuts back to the main chase. Here are the apparitions. We're back on the desert, Taklamakan Desert. His water is gone, and he's just about dying of thirst and dying of fear and dying of losing his direction in this ocean of sand. And here come these bizarre horseback riders coming right at him. and he's looking they don't have, the back of their heads are all gone. He's looking through their eyes into space. As they come, there are skeletons riding down, right down on him. They're holding swords in their hand, and the swords are flaming, and they're going to trample him with their horses and cut him to bits. And what does he do? He goes, "Oh, that's right, the monk." What did he say? He said, "Gate, gate, paragate." How did that go? Let me get my notes. Parasamgate bodhisvaha. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, gate, gate. As soon as the apparitions got within arm's length, they just all dissolved. They couldn't touch him. And sure enough, it was a test. It was a demonic obstacle that couldn't touch him, right? And he knew exactly that it was because of the Heart of Prajnaparamita Sutra mantra that taught to him by the monk whom he had saved. And if he hadn't taken the time to save the monk, he wouldn't have known the mantra, and he might have died of fear as these demonic weirdos came charging at him, right? So anybody who's been out in the desert knows what a strange place the desert can be, because there's nothing but your own mind. And who knows what that was, come charging at him. But by being able to recite the dharani, to make that basic vibration, he got protection, and the demons shattered. Then, and so I say, I always get goosebumps when I read this story, because it's so real when you read it. Then his hard times were not over. It wasn't done. Why? His horse started to run away, and it's tugging him. He said, "No, don't come. We're going this way." And the horse is tugging him, Oh, and he's like, "Don't go crazy, horse. I need you." And the horse is pulling him, and the horse pulls the reins out of his hand and goes galloping off. So Xuanzang, well, I might as well go find my horse. So he follows the horse's trail, comes over the top of the ridge, finds a beautiful pool of clear water, and the horse is there, lap, 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 lap. So Master Xuanzang dives into the water. Sure enough, it's real. It's a little oasis pool, fills up his water bag, and stays there for 2 and 3 days, gets his strength back, and continues on the way. So he can explain it eloquently according to beings' languages, using hundreds of thousands of asamkhyas of dharanis. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisvaha. So don't think these are simple, right? We swim in these dharanis. We just heard that Gold Coast Dharma Realm recited 108 great compassion mantras. Well, you might go lifetimes and never hear of the great compassion mantra, or meet anybody who knows how to recite it, right? But we have that. We got the Heart Sutra mantra. We've got the Junti Bodhisattva mantra, right? Sadhanan, Samya Samputo, Jujanan, Dadratoanan, Juli Juli Junti Sopo. Every day at lunch we recite that, right? We have the Sharangama mantra. Oh my goodness. Some people recite the Bai Shanzhou, the white robe Guan Yin mantra. We have all these wonderful, wonderful mantras. If you want to hear some amazing mantras, when you get an opportunity to take part in a Yankou, Fang Yankou, releasing the mouths that are aflame, liberating the burning mouths ceremony, that's part of the water, land, and air ceremony, go listen to those mantras. They have mantras that open the hells, right? So the beings can come out, and mantras that feed them, mantras that send them off to rebirth peacefully. So, those mantras, and the monks ring their bells, and that's a ceremony that is full of dharanis. So, okay, our Bodhisattva has mastered dharani on the 9th stage. Okay. 总持三昧皆清净，能于一念见多佛，一一佛所皆闻法，复以妙音而言唱。With dharanis and samadhis that are entirely pure, in a single instant's thought, he sees many Buddhas. He hears the Dharma in each of their gatherings, and then, with marvelous voices, he proclaims the teachings. Okay, there's a level, a strain. There's a thread, a narrative. There we go. There's our word. There's a narrative running through the Avatamsaka Sutra that you can pick up on and pay attention to, or kind of read past it. And I'm I guess autobiographical. I never know what to do with the teachings that pop up in the sutra all the time about Buddhas speaking Dharma. Why? Because it challenges every law of physics that you know working. They say that in every tiny mote of dust, and if we had a high-intensity lamp going sideways, you could see these little particles of dust, right, just floating in the air like that. In every tiny particle of dust, of which this tabletop has thousands and tens of thousands, there are Buddhas in number, like motes of dust, turning the wonderful Dharma wheel, teaching living beings. Okay, that's a story that pops up all the time. And I never know what to do with it, right? You have to go, oh, I totally believe it, or I'll suspend judgment, or what? You know, how do we fall out when we hear those teachings? What else? Here's our bodhisattva who is not the Buddha turning the Dharma wheel. He sees the Buddhas turning the Dharma wheel. He goes to where they are, and they say, 尊敬礼拜供养. He pays respects, bows to them, serves them, and makes offerings to them. That's what bodhisattvas do when they see Buddhas. And they do it, they say, in world systems as many as there are motes of dust in the Mojave Desert, grains of sand in the Mojave Desert. So that's one of these lines that continues throughout the sutra. It's one of the hallmarks of being a bodhisattva, is you can, when you want to, go to hear the Buddha speak Dharma. Why do they do it? They do it to learn. They're going to take notes and pick up pointers and tips and tricks for teaching living beings. Where the Buddhas teach, that's what they're doing. So they go to these Dharma assemblies, do those things, bow to them, pay respects, serve them, it says, 诚实. They, wash their bowls after lunch. And then they also make offerings to them. Then they come back to their worlds and teach what they learned. That's a story, a kind of a meta story. Jinchuan, how do you react to that? Have you ever paid attention to that narrative going on through the sutra?
When you were talking, I was actually thinking about how there are many kind of different waves going through space all the time. Like we have radio waves, we have wireless right now that you're using. We have our iPhones with all these different things on it. And a couple of weeks ago, when you mentioned that these Dharanis are like a shortwave radio where you kind of lock into a frequency, that actually really made sense to me as a sense like, it's almost like our iPhones and things kind of lock in at different frequencies. And so when they lock in a different frequency, they start to see different things that are there, but if you don't know the frequency, you never see it. And so I think in modern times, like you see in this room, there's probably thousands and millions and trillions of waves that are going through that we're not in tune with because we only see a very small range of waves. So that's just a reflection.
Yeah, that's helpful, for sure. If you have the right receiver, 88.5 on your FM dial, KQED, is happening right this minute. If you don't have the apparatus, you can't receive the signal. But it's Saturday night on KQED. What's their Saturday night program? This American Life, something. Ira Glass, something like that. Storytelling, something like that. Yeah, and if you're driving home from City of 10,000 Buddhas at 11 p.m. on a Sunday night, you're really glad that KQED is still doing that. If you're a public radio listener and supporter, right? So that's interesting. All the AM stations. When you go through Santa Rosa, you go to Froggy 92.9. You listen to country music, or you don't. But I had a favorite station at 11:30, coming down from City of 10,000 Buddhas. I would lock onto it. It was the 1100 on the AM dial. It was the Mount Olive Holy Apostolic Church of God, bringing you the message from Pastor Fosdick, who would speak in tongues. And she would start out, Pastor Fosdick, she was a great humanitarian down on the peninsula. From where? From Menlo Park. Right. It was the Mount Olive AOH, Apostolic, Holy, AHO, AOH, Apostolic, Mount Olive, Original, Apostolic, Holy Church of God. And if you would like Pastor Fosdick's message for your very own, mail $5 and a postcard to Mount Olive, AOH, Menlo Park. She'd been there for decades, and it was amazing because she had the old style of preaching, where she was a senior female pastor, and she had a wonderful mission. She put many young people through college and saved families, and it was a full service church there. But her style of preaching was she would ask somebody in the congregation to pick out a Bible verse. And she would say, 1 Timothy, 1 Timothy, Jesus is our rock. And she would go, now a rock is solid, and Jesus is our rock. And she would keep going, and she would pound on it. Now a rock doesn't move, and Jesus doesn't move. And she would start going, and she'd start to breathe, and pretty soon she would start to bark. And at every phrase, and a rock, and she would get in, and she'd start, and the music would swell, and the organ, boom, the drums are going, and she went into what the Buddhists would call the Deviant Samadhi, because she was barking, and it'd go on for, depending on how inspired she was and how much the Holy Spirit came down to her. She would go on for 15 or 20 minutes. And if ever I had somebody in the car, I would just turn to that station without explanation, and they'd be going, what's wrong? What are we listening to? Does she need help? Bark, 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 there's a rock, bark. And it's a, accepted, time-tested, wonderful preaching style. And they, the Holy Spirit came into that room. What did we just do? Namo da fa. Let's get real, right? We're doing the same thing. But she did it on the radio, week after week. And she would take that verse from the Bible and turn it into a kind of a spell, kind of a state. And so that's the Mount Olive Original Holy Apostolic Church of God. So you can check it out, Pastor Fosdick. And so that kept me going. Going through, Santa Rosa, I would stay awake, waiting, listening to her bark at me on the radio. And that's in the air right this minute. I can't feel it, but I know it's there. If this were Sunday night, 11:30, you could find it. Where is it? Well, where are the Buddhas in those motes of dust? Can I tune to their frequency? Like Chin Chuan says, What else is here? Well, my goodness, Wi-Fi. Netflix has no color, has no weight, but if you click on that correct URL, Netflix will pop up on your browser. So amazing, right? Why do we discount one but believe in the other? Interesting. So yeah, what's it like in the sutras when bodhisattvas travel to limitless numbers of Buddha lands to hear the Buddha speak the Dharma, and teach the bodhisattva what he needs to know, what she needs to know to up her game, to be better at teaching. So that pops up in almost every chapter. That's something that bodhisattvas do. Did you have a thought? Your eyes just went.
I think another pretty concrete analogy is actually the frequencies of people's voices, or like you can say maybe just a tone of voice. But a lot of people, if they're kind of the same nature, they kind of have the same kind of sound. And so if somebody's really excited, there's a certain frequency. If it's calm, there's a certain frequency. So it's something we don't often pay attention to in terms of content because we're listening to the words. But if you just shift your attention and say, like, at what frequency is this sound coming at me at, you can often detect a lot of other things that are going on. So it's just, in some sense, the bodhisattvas are kind of, I've actually really been thinking about that frequency one, because all of a sudden the Great Compassion mantra had a different meaning for me, which was that's the frequency of great compassion. So then what does that feel like in my heart, that frequency of great compassion? What am I paying attention to around me? That's the frequency of great compassion. So that was a very interesting reflection.
What is the frequency of great compassion? Yeah. Do you need a microphone back there? Is there one on that? You only have one, or is there more than one? Okay. Wait for the microphone.
I'm not a doctor, but I think like traditional Chinese medicine tunes into the frequency of your pulses of different organs to hear and feel what frequency that organ is in and what it's vibrating in.
Mm-hmm. That's right, yeah. And the Huangdi Neijing Su Wen, the Yellow Emperor's classic of internal Chinese medicine, talks about different kinds of physicians. The very best physician can diagnose by sight. And the next best physician can diagnose by smell. They smell you, and they know what organ is out of. Is it gallbladder? Is it liver? And the other skillful doctors listen to your voice, right? They can tell by the sound what's out of whack. And it's the rude, crude, lower level who has to actually touch your pulse, right? So that's, unfortunately, doctors are not what they once were, apparently, judging by the Huangdi Neijing Su Wen, but that's what they said. And then, of course, their methods of diagnosis, their methods of treatment are the same. Needles are really considered crude compared to the doctor that can heal you without touching, So, yeah, that's right. So, vibrations of voices, and some singers can bring you to tears. No matter, well, not always, but in an audience, certain voice vibrations put into the air by a soprano or a bass can vibrate the entire audience into a state of openness and emotion. They can stir emotion through their voices. So what is that? Clearly it's vibration. So dharani is there. That's dharani. And negativity as well. I teach a course on speaking Dharma, and depending on the audience, I play 3 clips readily available from YouTube. And one is Aragorn's Strider, his speech before the Black Gate in The Return of the King, right? As the Black Gate opens and out come the orcs, And here's Strider on his horse with a handful of men of the north, And he's trying to inspire them. And it's a wonderful speech, He said, "There may come a day when the eye of man fails, but it is not today. Today we fight." You go, "Yeah, we here come the orcs. But he inspires everybody. And it's just words, and it's a man, but at the moment it's like, wow, it really does. It gets you feel, your lungs are pulling more oxygen out of the air. Then I play Adolf Hitler in the Reichstag in 1937 or something like that, and it's this speech where Nazism is going full blast, and all the swastikas are adorned everywhere, and everybody is wearing their, SS paraphernalia. And he starts to talk, and he goes on, and in about 3 minutes he's frothing, and about 7 minutes he's hysterical. And the sound of his voice, I can never play it more than about 7 minutes. I just want to, I feel a need to protect. I want to cover my vulnerable places, my pit of my stomach, my soul, because his voice, I won't imitate it, but it's like broken glass, and it hits me below the waist. That's where I'm being motivated, and the faces of the people present, it's an incredible black and white documentary. They're just, and shouting as he is, and there's subtitles, and he's talking about the inferiority of certain races that need to be eliminated. The world is better without them. To save the world, we must get rid of these people, And everyone, and he's berserk. It's a berserk speech, and as he speaks, he goes berserk. He's clearly got some horrible energy on him, and he's leading, 1,000 people in the audience to follow him. And so then I ask the students, how do you feel? Where did you hear that talk? And they're like, well, I just immediately, my shoulders went up like this to keep me safe. And yeah. And then I play Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, given at the mobilization at the Washington Monument, Washington, D.C., 1973, I believe. Peter, Paul, and Mary first sing If I Had a Hammer, and then they bring out Dr. King, and his voice vibrates at a very different place than Aragorn, Strider, or Adolf Hitler, and he's using the cadences of African American preaching, and he uses his voice in a skillful way that goes up and then comes down and then it comes up again. And his rhythm is based on the breath. And he says, I can't do it justice, but he goes, I see a day when young white children and young black children will hold their hands together, looking for a new day of harmony and justice. May the waters of justice flow down from the hills of righteousness and nourish our human seeds of goodness. I have a dream. And you're going, and you go, me too. It's the skill of using the voice to carry the best part of your nature. And then I play it, and I have a dream today. And when you're done, I say, where do y'all feel that? They're like, my heart is like, it's bigger. You go, yeah. So that's the human voice. It's not Dharani. It's speaking. One case it's English, one is German, one is English. But it's emotional, it's intellectual, it's spiritual, but very different, depending on the intent and the sound of the speaker. So, right? You were in that class when I played that, and it's Jin Hosher. What's your memory of that? You were in that class too, right?
I felt the same.
Hallelujah. Yeah. All right. So, in a single instance thought, he sees many Buddhas because he uses samadhis and dharanis. He hears the Dharma in each of the Buddha's gatherings, and with marvelous voices, he proclaims the teachings. Look at that. Our Bodhisattva has learned how to use his voice that way. And Jin Chuansher's comment about, the power of the voice to just through its vibrations to inspire us, absolutely the case. Okay, are we over on 94, 95? Here we go. 若欲三千大千界，教化一切主春生，如云广布五不及，随其根欲悉令喜。If she wishes to teach all the many beings in the large, threefold, thousand-world realm, the way clouds shadow all below without exception, she delights them all, each according to their roots and wishes. Okay, roots probably would be better translated here as faculties, or abilities, or potentials. Roots is too literal. Like, that's gun is used to talk about your senses, but it's also the invisible inner faculty, like faith, for example, and vigor, for example. Okay, if he wishes, if she wishes, to 教化 is the verb, to teach living beings in the 三千大千界, meaning the universe. So, that's a big order, right? Let's teach everybody in the threefold large thousand-world system. Okay, 如云广布五不及. He can do so, she can do so, like clouds that cover with no break. 随其根系根欲悉令喜 can make them happy. Not only can this bodhisattva talk to him, but he can get a result from talking to him. How about that? Ask anybody who's ever tried to do comedy, right? Like stand-up comedians, people, how hard it is to get everybody to laugh. And this bodhisattva unerringly can get everybody to evince that happiness, that joy. There is truly something wonderful in laughter. And the public speakers, that's why if you're in a Gavel Club or the Toastmasters International, or if you take Brian Conroy's class on speaking, right? There's a standard formula, which is what? Start out with a joke. If you're in a homiletics class being trained to be a minister, you're going to be a Lutheran mass pastor, right? Start with a joke. And if you have a good joke, it's really valuable. And preachers, from rabbis to imams, all have a stash of jokes, and they write it up on the top of the sermon. And then, remember, our Methodist minister would always start with a joke, and it was such a cliche, and we knew it was coming, and he knew we knew, and he would do it anyway, and we'd all go, and then it broke the ice, and then he goes on, okay, corny joke. And that's what you do, because there's something magic in laughter. If you can actually, when people spontaneously, ha ha ha, because it was funny, that's magic. Why? Why did that turn of phrase, the timing, the gesture, touch the funny bone? It's amazing how, and it's universal, right? If you can get a laugh in Japan, you can get a laugh in Brazil. Get a laugh in Taipei, you can get a laugh in New York, It's magic how you can just get it just right. And when laughter happens, if it's not, I mean, there's cruel laughter too. There's satirical, bitter laughter. But when it's a genuine, humorous story or line or something, faces relax, facial muscles relax, heartbeats change, people sink in the audience, right? Entertainers know about this, that you can, there are magic moments when heartbeats synchronize, breathing synchronizes in an audience of strangers. If the speaker, if the singer, if the actor is skillful, and what's going on? You know, what kind of magic is happening here? But this bodhisattva can, jiao hua, teach the many beings in a universe, just the way the clouds on a cloudy day cover everywhere, without gaps. Right? Everybody gets taught. Not only are they taught, but they're happy. You can get them to laugh together. What is that? What kind of skill? How deep is the bodhisattva in the tree of meaning, being able to communicate it, right? Pretty amazing. One more. 毛端佛众无有数，众生心要亦无极，悉应其心于法门，一切法界皆如是。The number of Buddha's assemblies gathered on a hair tip are beyond counting. The joys of beings' minds are also infinite. He can match their wishes and teach them Dharma practices. Throughout the Dharma realm, it is that way as well. So here we go. Here's our meta narrative of the many in the tiny. Many, many Buddhas, which should take up a huge amount of space, are all gathered on a single hair tip. Here we go. And there they are. Yep. So the sutra gives us that microscopic vision, which is not static, it's dynamic, right? All those Buddhas in a tiny space, and the tiny space opens to reveal all the Buddhas. And furthermore, as infinite as those Buddhas are, the thoughts in living beings' minds are equally infinite. And this bodhisattva can match them all everywhere in the Dharma realm. Okay, stop. This is the claim I was telling you about. This is where we're applying the results of the bodhisattva's knowledge of the ninth stage. Right? This is the results of that function that he learned through dharani. Now, we have to say it again, but this text is instructions. It's scientific. If you take it step by step by step, at no time does it stop being scientific, whereby you just take it on faith. This was a progressive handbook, a manual of gradual refining of the human mind. Should you put your effort here instead of doing the other things we do with our time, this could be you, because why? The potential is right there. The map is in your mind. Nobody lacks the Avatamsaka's wiring. We just don't fire it up, right? I've said that so many times, and I believe it. I believe that this is a primal blueprint of human beings' basic wiring. And the steps, it's not that you leapt over certain things to get, or certain people got there on the fast track. Anybody who does the cultivation can get there. How about that? So here we are, the Bodhisattva is able to go into infinite numbers of minds, infinite numbers of thoughts, not only the thoughts, but the happy thoughts, and tweak them just like plucking a guitar string, right? and make those beings happy, in harmony. And they go, and they're just like, oh, that's so nice. How about that, right? All I have to do is slide it a little bit and it's no longer in harmony. Ooh, ouch, stop that. Ah, thank you, right? He's never wrong. He doesn't do it wrong. How about that? Could everybody close your sutra text, open up your songbook, turn to page 72. From the sublime to the ridiculous. Page 72. What is this? This is a prescient song. What does that mean? A song that like knows the future. Notice the date, written in 2006. And in 2006, we were talking about peak oil. I don't know if anybody remembers that phrase. There was a time when, this is before fracking and things like that, and we were saying that oil is gone and people are going to have to stop driving. And that included buses and trucks that bring the food to the Safeway just in time, right? Safeways don't stock food. They are called time to market. So at the time, peak oil was this theory that said, you know, before too long, freeways are going to be parking lots because there aren't going to be any trucks driving on them. You're going to be the longest shuffleboard court in the world, you know, I-75. And that was the theory back then. So that occurred to me, and other things too. So what are you going to do when the oil is gone, brother? What are you going to do when the oil is gone, man? What are you going to do when the oil is gone? Going to junk my car and learn to farm, brother, sister of mine. And we were saying back then that the most valuable skill you can offer to your community is the ability to grow food out of the ground. So Ren, keep that garden bright and keep that tilth deep, right? Amend your soil, because man, Safeway's going to be out of food when the trucks don't roll. It just takes one big rig to jackknife in an on-ramp, and that part of the freeway is shut. You know, if you don't have gas in the tow truck to pull it off, that's it. Your freeway is now a community room. You can bowl on it, you know, go bowling. What are you going to do when you can't drive, sister? What are you going to do when you can't drive, ma'am? What are you going to do when you can't drive? I'm going to try to find a way to stay alive, brother, sister of mine, right? What are you going to do when you can't buy food, brother? What are you going to do when you can't buy food, man? What are you going to do when you can't buy food? I'm going to learn what grows in my neighborhood, brother, sister of mine, right? It might not be out of the ground, it might be bees. Maybe you're the local beekeeper and you trade honey for clothes for your new kid, for your baby, you know, or whatever, dog food. What are you going to do with your SUV, sister? What are you going to do with your SUV, ma'am? What are you going to do with your SUV? I'm going to trade it for a jar of potato seeds, tomato seeds, bean seeds, right? Whatever, because SUV, $35,000 for a minimum entry-level SUV, no gas, useless. Better off with potato seeds, right? What are you going to do when the mall is dark, brother? What are you going to do when the mall is dark, man? What are you going to do when the mall is dark? I'm going to plant soybeans where I used to park. Turn the big parking lot outside the mall into farmland. That's more valuable than dark stores, right? What are you going to do when the bus is late, brother? What are you going to do when the bus is late, ma'am? What are you going to do when the bus is late? I'm going to cross my legs and meditate. Right? Who needs to go into town where there's nothing for sale anyway? What are you going to do when the TV's down? What are you going to do when the TV's down, man? What are you going to do when the TV's down? I'm going to have a conversation with the folks in town. Haven't done that in a long time. Brother, sister of mine, right? What are you going to do with Dad's 22? Now, I grew up when every house had a 22 caliber pistol, a gun, right? Everybody had one. We kids, as soon as we got old enough, we wanted a 22. That was a good birthday gift when you were 16. What are you going to do with Dad's 22, brother? What are you going to do with Dad's 22, man? What are you going to do with Dad's 22? I'm going to bury it deep with the bullets too, brother, sister of mine. And this verse I thought was really interesting back in 2006. What are you going to do when the president lies, brother? What are you going to do when the president lies, man? What are you going to do when the president lies? I'm going to vote him out and shuck that jive, brother, sister of mine. That's American slang for get rid of his lies. Can that jive? What are you going to do? So, global warming, climate change did us in, sister. Climate change did us in, ma'am. Climate change did us in. I used to walk, now I've got to swim, brother, sister of mine. So I thought that was kind of interesting, 13 years ago for that. And the melody is Froggy Went A-Courtin', which you better know if you don't know. You better learn it. What are you gonna do when the oil is gone, brother? What are you gonna do when the oil is gone, man? What are you gonna do when the oil is gone? I'm gonna junk my car, learn to farm, brother, sister of mine. What are you gonna do when you can't drive, sister? What are you gonna do when you can't drive, ma'am? What are you gonna do when you can't drive? I'm gonna try to find a way to stay alive, brother, sister of mine. Boy, that's a lot of verses. We're gonna sing them all, Dharma Master. Oh, what are you gonna do when you can't buy food, brother? What are you gonna do when you can't buy food, man? What are you gonna do when you can't buy food? You're gonna learn what grows in the neighborhood, brother, sister of mine. Luckily, we're in California. Just about everything grows in the neighborhood. What are you gonna do with your SUV, sister? What are you gonna do with your SUV, ma'am? What are you gonna do with your SUV? Gonna trade it for a jar of whatever kind of seeds you want, brother, sister of mine. What are you gonna do when the mall is dark, brother? What are you gonna do when the mall is dark, man? What are you gonna do when the mall is dark? I'm gonna plant soybeans where I used to park, brother, sister of mine. This is where Alan Sinaki does his bluegrass lead, I Can't Fake It. Here we go. What are you gonna do when the bus is late, sister? What are you gonna do when the bus is late, ma'am? What are you gonna do when the bus is late? I'm gonna cross my legs and meditate, brother, sister of mine. What are you gonna do when the computer's down, brother? What are you gonna do when the internet's down, man? What are you gonna do when the Wi-Fi's down and have a conversation with the folks in town, brother, sister of mine? Haven't had one of those in a long time. What are you gonna do with Dad's 22, sister? What are you gonna do with Dad's 22, ma'am? What are you gonna do with Dad's 22? Gonna bury it deep with the bullets too, brother, sister of mine. Boy, back then we had no idea that 40,000 people were going to be shot. And what are you going to do when the president lies, brother? What are you going to do when the president lies, man? president wouldn't lie. What are you gonna do when the president lies? They're gonna vote him out and stuff that jive, brother, sister of mine. Global warming did us in, mister. Climate change did us in, man. Global warming did us in. Well, I used to walk, now I've gotta swim, brother, sister of mine. So more of those incredible prescient songs. Oh my goodness. Who knew, right? I mean, it seemed impossible. If you were to describe current situation back then, we would have said, no way, couldn't be. We wouldn't do that, would we? So, my goodness, what I would like to do now is say that next week, Heng Sure is going to be sitting here explaining the sutra, because Heng Sure and I will be in New York City. We're going to be working with the monks from China at Lincoln Center, believe it or not, 2 performances of Chinese fanbei, the sacred music, helping them present that. There's also a forum on Chan, so we'll be taking part in that and back on Sunday. So that's one announcement. Tomorrow is a all-day Buddha recitation, walking recitation from 7:30 or 8:30? 8:30, right? 8点半开始, huh? 7点半, 7:30 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon, here in the Buddha Hall. Slow walking, reciting the Buddha's name. That's happening tomorrow, and lunch as well. We know that Marty Verhoeven's Avatamsaka Sutra class happens Friday nights, so right here at 7:30. Also, do we want to do our picnic announcement? Is that for the whole world? You want? What's that? Yeah, we're going to have a picnic, and you're not invited. So, no, that's not. We're developing a property in the Santa Cruz Redwoods. We're calling it Redwood Chan Vihara, Hongmu Chanlin. And on the 26th of October, we're going to be going down to have a picnic, to do a lot of chores that need to be doing, a lot of intensive man and woman power, so people are welcome to come down and join us. We'll be announcing more about that as we go. What else to announce? Guanyin session coming up at City of 10,000 Buddhas starting. Not tonight, but next Saturday. Yeah, next Saturday. That's happening. City of 10,000 Buddhas, Guanyin Bodhisattva. What is it? Is it Chengdao? Guanyin Pusa, Day of Realizing the Tao. Okay, we had our Dharma Realm Buddhist University board meeting today here at the monastery, and there's the open house is what? October 24th, which is a Thursday, 5:30 to 7:30 at Dharma Realm Buddhist University in Ukiah. There's an open house. People come and find out about DRBU. Please do check it out. We had an extremely busy day at the monastery today. For example, we had our work crew, some of whom are sitting awake up in the pews up there. They've been working all day hard, laying brick and block and decorative stone on our front yard. That project's been going on for weeks now. It's a wonderful project. It's looking really good. It's a group effort, everybody working together. At the same time, in the Buddha Hall, we had the Great Compassion Repentance. Then in the afternoon, we had Great Compassion, we had the Buddha's Name recitation and the ground bell practice. We had our board meeting in the dining room. Then, at the same time, we had reciting for elders in Oakland, reciting the Buddha's name with elders. And then at the same time, we had the Walk to Feed the Hungry here by the Buddhist Global Relief participation. So lots and lots of activity going on at the monastery. And so that's a blessing that an urban monastery can be authentically engaged in the life of the community in that way. So, okay, yes, that's pretty much it. We'll transfer the merit now, and I'm going to show some photographs of things that I'd like to share with you, some images from China. So, in the back of your songbook, you have the dedication of merit, and I'm playing it on my Alberico double O guitar, for which I am grateful. So you make a wish, share the goodness that comes from being cleansed by the light of the Buddhas with the world. How does the Bodhisattva go out to all those assemblies? Through his mind. So that's the same mind we're working with when we transfer. So I think those are related. Our minds as one and radiant with light, bear the fruits of peace, with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, our hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. All right. So, Locke, if you would flip the projector on and bring the screen down. Now, this image says, can somebody, yeah, thank you. Turn those lights off behind. This image, it reads from your right to your left. It says Dragon Gate. Did anybody last week go look for Longman Kojan? The Dragon Gate Inn, that wonderful old film. It was one of the very first martial arts films that made it to the West. Here is Dragon Gate, Longmen. This is from the Longmen Grottos in near Loyang on the Yi River. Now, one of the things that I did as I was processing these photos is this is a black and white image, you'll notice. And I want people to tell me whether you prefer this or... Oh, this is the black and white. No, this is the color. This is the original color. That's black and white. Which is better? This one. Color is better. Okay. Now, here is the Longmen Grottos. This is the whole expanse of the Dragon Gate stone caves. Here's the big Buddha, which you will see more of shortly. And it's just this cliff face along the banks of the river. And the carvings have been going on for 1,200, 1,400 years. You can see all these holes in the wall, right? These are the caves. You think, well, it's a little frustrating. I can't quite see it, so I brought it closer. These main Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are spectacular. This is truly a guobao, a national treasure, right? You can see people walking up these very steep flight of steps to get to the platform where the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and Dharma Protectors have been cut out of the rock. And all these little holes on every side are the caves that Buddhas filled before they were mostly destroyed. There it is. So I'm going to take you right into this grotto. These are the Dharma Protectors. They're super dramatic, you know. Black and white. Prefer the color? Color, black and white. Which? Color's better? Okay. Here's color, black and white. Color is better. Okay. See all these accompanying bodhisattvas? These two Dharma Protectors are almost untouched. Just to their left is Ananda and Mahakashyapa. His face is nearly totally destroyed. This is Mahakashyapa here, next to Samantabhadra. You can see his head has been demolished. And the arms, the hands of the Buddha have been demolished. Now, the guide, very skillful guide, here's color, black and white, better or color? Color, okay, pretty much unanimously color. The guide said it's not the case that it's all human destruction, that a lot of it is rain and weather, because these have been there for thousands of years. And the destruction, when it's human caused, happened in different times, with 300, 400 years in between, when one emperor would just hate Buddhism and try to destroy it. And actually, Longmen did not receive lots of damage from the Cultural Revolution, but afterwards is when a lot of the destruction happened, simply by thieves coming in and destroying it. It wasn't politically motivated. So it's not one story of what happened. So here are the same Dharma Protectors we saw before. They're relatively intact, but poor Mahakashyapa here lost his face. Here at Longmen, there are 10 9,000 Buddha images, and 9,050 of them are destroyed, are defaced. Yeah, here's black and white, here's color. See Mahakashyapa here? Just everything above his nose has been whacked off. But these, look at the protecting bodhisattvas here and Buddhas. The scale of these are just incredible. And it's like you can't get enough of, one look is not enough. You have to keep blinking and stepping back and I think it's right in between. That's why it's good for carving. I actually don't know the answer to that, but you could find out for sure. This is Samantabhadra. Here's poor Mahakashyapa. Here he is again. You start to contemplate how it was carved. And it started as a solid block of rock, and they reduced it, right? You remove the rock to get to this expression. And there is an overhang up above. This is water damage because there's a natural overhang above all of these images. Here's black and white. Okay, this is the walkway up to another cave. Lots of climbing along the riverbank here. The Chinese have done a really good job of preserving and making accessible, here's Longman, these marbles, these historical, artistic, cultural, architectural marbles, right? The Chinese have made the most of, they tried hard to make them accessible to people and explain what they have and done the research and very, everything from the parking lots to the bathrooms, they've treated this treasure quite respectfully. There's another reality about caves along the riverbank, which is the river periodically rises and floods the cave. This is a lotus flower that's above a Buddha that this whole cave has got water damage. Zhou Enlai liked this lotus flower so much that he had some architects and art historians remove it and take it to Beijing, copy it, and then bring it back. So he liked it a lot. So in his residence, he kept this lotus ceiling adornment for his own delight. Let's see here. Here we go. Okay, we've seen that one, we've seen that one, we've seen that one. Okay, I guess that's all of the images that I worked on to make them nicer. Here we go. This is the big, these have not been worked on. Here's the Buddha underneath that lotus flower. And this is all water damage. So these images are exposed, right? They're exposed to the elements. But they've lasted 1,000 plus years. What else did you see today that was 1,000 years old? Here's what I mean when I say defaced. Here's one of the 10,000 Buddha images that had its face knocked off and his hands broken off. And, it depends on your attitude. If all you can see is the devastation, this is just a bummer, right? I mean, look, there you can see they were Buddhas there, but it's been destroyed, right? And it kind of depends on your state of mind, whether you see something wonderful and historical and ancient or something disastrous and horrible, right? At a certain point, I started to count the number of defaced Buddhas, and it really ruined it for me. Okay, the water climbed up in this cave when the river rose. This is the watermark. It used to be like that, but the water discolored it. So the water, they have poles and markers on the wall that show the high water mark at a certain date when the river flooded. What do you think? I mean, I think that's very cool. And how wonderful to have, if you live in Loyang, you just ride over to the riverbank and see this in your backyard, How incredible. Okay, that's pretty much, I have a bunch more, but we'll do that another time. I did want to share with you the verses that lead to the 10th stage, because they're coming up. Here we go. Now, this is still raw. This is going to be polished and then put in the book that's in front of you, in front of everybody. This is coming up. Notice we only have 2 more pages to lecture on the verses of the 9th stage. Then we come here, and what is it? These are goddesses' songs of praise, right? What do goddesses sing when they sing? We get to hear it. This is Tiannu, and they're quoted in the verses that lead to the 10th stage, right? So, I mean, take it literally. This is the Avatamsaka Sutra quoting Deva maidens, right? Goddesses in heaven praising the Buddha. Okay, the Devas from the heavens of the pure abode, Nayutas in number, having heard the supreme practices of that stage, the 9th, danced with delight in the air, their minds filled with joy. With deep sincerity, they made offerings to the Buddha. Inconceivable multitudes of bodhisattvas felt great joy as they hovered in the air, and together they lit sublime incense that delighted the mind. The scent perfumed the assembly, so all felt cleansed. Kings from the Maheshvara heaven and the many devas, limitless kotis in number, soaring in space, scattered divine raiment everywhere in offering to the Buddha. 1 billion varieties descended in colorful profusion. All the exquisite Deva maidens, limitless in number, rejoiced, every one, as they made offerings to the Buddha. They all played marvelous music of many kinds that praised the Buddha with the following words, and I quote, I get to speak Deva goddess language, right? Devi language. The Buddha sits in repose in a single land, yet his bodies appear in all worlds everywhere. His physical hallmarks are majestic and limitless in number as they fill the great expanse of the Dharma realm. From a single pore in the skin he sends forth bright lights that dispel the darkness of being's afflictions everywhere. One could count the fine motes of dust in lands, but the quantity of those lights could not be known. One might see the thus come one, replete with every hallmark, turning the wheel of Dharma, unsurpassed and right. Or one might see him traveling to Buddha's kshetras, or one might see him calm and still, unmoving and serene. He might appear abiding in the Tushita heaven's palace, or appear to abide in his mother's womb. He might appear in the womb or perhaps being born, so that in limitlessly many worlds he makes such appearances. Okay, this is where the translation stopped. This is old Chinglish stuff. He might appear to leave the home life and practice the world's paths, or may appear in the Bodhimanda achieving proper enlightenment. He may manifest speaking Dharma or entering Nirvana, so all without exception in the 10 directions see this. Just as a master magician who is skilled in conjuring conjures up all kinds of things within the multitudes, the thus come one with his wisdom in a similar way makes his bodies appear everywhere throughout the worlds. The Buddha dwells in the profound and true nature of Dharma, still and quiescent, without marks, the same as empty space. Yet within that truth in the primary sense, he makes appear varieties of deeds that are enacted. All the deeds he does to benefit sentient beings take their existence based upon the Dharma nature. All the marks and non-marks are without discrimination. Upon entry to the ultimate, they are all without marks. Karl Marx? Never mind. If one wishes to attain to the thus come one's wisdom, he should separate from all unreal discrimination. When existence and non-existence are fathomed as one sameness, one soon becomes a great guiding master for humans and gods. Those devas are pretty profound, aren't they? That's their praise. When the throngs of heavenly maidens, limitless and boundless, with all types of sounds, had completed these praises, they fell still in body and mind with total happiness and were silent as they gazed up at the thus come one. At that time, the Bodhisattva Moon of Liberation, perceiving the multitudes were now still and silent, addressed Vajra Treasury Bodhisattva, saying these words, "Greatly fearless one, that you are a true disciple of the Buddha, from the 9th stage to enter the 10th stage, all the marks of practice with their meritorious virtues, the particulars of the transformations through spiritual penetrations, please, may you, who know them all, proclaim for us and speak them." Okay, that's our preview of the 10th stage coming up. And what I think is cool is the sutra puts the words of goddesses right in our hands, right? As if it were an interview for NPR, with a microphone. What do you think of the Buddha's radiance on the 10th stage? Oh, serene and unmoving. Yeah. How cool is that? All right, there we go. Thank you all for investigating with me this incredible experience of the Flower Garland Sutra. And I will be back with you in 2 weeks, Jinwei Shi as well. Next week, Jinfo Shi will be here to explain the Sutra of Limitless Lifespan. And we'll see you then. Let's all bow to the Buddha. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Namo